welcome to the Field of Streams, where every week I, your host, Janeen McCrae, read a short piece of my writing to you so that you don't have to. Now, I can't promise you much with these missives, but I can promise you this. I won't keep you long. Before we get into this, let's talk inspiration. This one was inspired by a story I read in Intelligentsia magazine about the 400-metre hurdles. Apparently the 400-metre hurdles are quite difficult. You have to be a bit, I don't know if strategic is the right word, but because it's quite long and you can't sprint for the whole thing, you have to plan for it. I'll put a link to it in the description if you want to read the whole thing, but the bit I focused on was about how to train for nailing the number of steps in between each hurdle and what that perfect number is, and also how different runners switch it up. Listen to this. Quote, "For men, the gold standard has always been to run a 13-step pattern for the entirety of the race. Edwin Moses was the first to execute this, but few runners since have been able to replicate that. For women, running 15 steps in between hurdles for the race's entirety is a rough equivalent, yet maintaining the same stride length during an entire race can become difficult once fatigue sets in, forcing hurdlers to add a step or two during the race." End quote. Oh, and this bit from later in the article, quote, "In order to have the flexibility to switch their stride pattern during the race, 400-metre hurdlers train to become ambidextrous with their legs." End quote. It goes on to talk about them dragging weights around during training on non-dominant legs to grow strength. So essentially they're training to perfect the number of steps between each hurdle, to switch between legs seamlessly without messing up and clipping a hurdle while they're at it, to have maximum efficiency in tackling those steps between each hurdle to get to the finish, hopefully as the fastest hurdler. The steps between, doing them, training for them, getting them done, that's what inspired me. But not in relation to hurdles, it's in terms of making things, art, whatever your art is. From idea to finished piece, there's no getting around it. You cannot get from point A in your creative work to point B without the steps between. Between the start and the finish, in art and in life, is the work. Do the work. Do the steps. You ready? Let's crouch in our start positions, fire up our fast twitch muscles, take off, hit all the steps until we break that finish tape of me reading something I wrote called The Steps in Between. Between the note and the song comes the throat-bobbing swell, the fizzing, bubbling gulp that will burst to the surface of a landlocked heart. The between shifts one octave, sidesteps a bar, and erases and transposes from one score to the next. Always searching, always between, seeking the oneness of pure eye-rollback bliss in the strike of a note. The open ear and string and bow, and between that, the delicious empty beat set on a straight-line highway between brain and devotion. And between that, the work. There can be no melody without between. Between the launch and the orbit comes the searing potential of the burn, the shuddering fuselage and eyes on stalks as you rocket to the unknown, your hot shell glowing with wild anticipation. Between gravity's sweet embrace and its release, the unclipped seatbelt of wonder. What will happen next? Will we flourish and gasp in awe at our own bravery, floating our creations with untethered confidence and wide-eyed joy into the atmosphere? Will we look back toward our private planets and consider ourselves astronauts and pioneers, not faking but flying with the authentic honesty of our pursuits? Or will we, in between, explode? Between the yeast and the loaf comes the measuring and the mix, the weighing of choices and flavours, of the month or otherwise, and dietary considerations. In between comes the sift and the butter and the check of expiration dates, the whisk and the fold and the knead. temperature adjustments and light touches to doughy foreheads allude to our future dreams of pleasant aromas filling whole rooms and satiating the hunger of all in attendance. The bread may or may not end up in your ledger, but adhering to your own taste is all that matters. In between, in between, in between. In between is the proof. Between the scare and the scream comes the inevitable terror. The creeping up the spine of fear, cracking vertebrae as it tingles at the skin of flop. Failure wears a mask and wields a chainsaw and plucks a horrifying glissando on a haunted violin in the darkened cupboard of your childhood dream lair. Between the initial fright and the fearful expression, between the anxious pillow clutch and your face hiding behind your hand, lies the illumination of your darkness. Courage is found peeking in between fingers. Between the starter's pistol and the last hurdle comes the optimal number of steps. Repeatable, knowable, unshakable. These are steps that must be made to reach the end of your event and well past the final hurdle. Between each leap will be steps. Again, the more hurdles you encounter, the harder it will be to maintain your momentum. You may have to add steps to complete this task. It may slow you down, but there is no escaping it. The steps must be taken for the hurdles to disappear behind you. You cannot break the tape at the finish without the steps between. There are no shortcuts, and AI has no soul, and if it ever does, it will never be your soul. Between the first sentence, which this one is not, and the last, also not this one, comes hesitation and procrastination and consulting with temperatures of rooms and current what's hots and reviews and opinions and second guessings and throwing it all away and starting again. In between is self-doubt and giving up and jealousy and melees and waning inspiration and demotivation and questioning everything and everyone and every thought and feeling and worth. In between your first sentence and last sentence is life. There is no world but the one you make for yourself between that first and last. What a glorious idea. What glory is held in the power of that? Between you and me and you is us. You and I and me and you and them and we and all are touching. Behold our Venn diagram of merging thought, of your loves with mine, and habits colouring to darker, stronger shades in this bright and glorious connection. We blend and meld and converge and combine and seep our lives to a sublime goo of simpatico. We are not made weaker by the between. We are not diluted as we bleed and melt our creative and emotional fidelities together. We are united in the necessary roughness of the in-between work. The work that must be done. The distractions, the inspirations, the disappointments, the distrust in the steps, the process, and the execution. This is what lies between dreams and reality. Between insanity and calm, between this and the next, you will always find me in between. But let's just keep that between ourselves. And there you have it, today's episode. I share these missives to show you that, well, ideas can come from anywhere. So look everywhere, then go make something from that inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. But for now, I'll leave you with this. Love what you love, and I'll see you out there making stuff.